everybody, and welcome to episode 9. How did that happen? Of Rails Optional. I say that literally every time. So we are doing something a little bit different this time. We're not recording live. We are recording in Riverside FM just so we can see if we can play with the theme music. I miss the theme music, but I still don't want to actually do real edits. So today the plan is that we are going to talk about the things that get in the way of organizations' ability to execute their strategy and to make changes. So things like process debt and tech debt and culture debt and some other kind of debt that I can't think of right now. Data debt.
Data
That's
debt.
the other
Data
debt.
debt.
Yeah.
Data
Yeah.
debt. Data debt. Data debt. Debt. Debt.
So that's the other debt in the debt stack. And that's the plan for today. Who knows what it will mean? Because as always, the Rails are optional.
That isn't the right song, is it?
That
We still believe in the reason we started. The candlelight that makes the world less guarded. We're never numbers, never machines. We were the pulse behind the dream.
all right. Theme music again. I'm so excited.
Is it really a
I would-
show without music? I mean, really.
Exactly. Okay. So thinking through this whole debt stack idea and so an organizational debt stack is not a real thing from real research. All of the pieces of it though are like technical debt and data debt and process debt and culture debt. All of those are talked about, and all of the thought leadery white paper people are beginning to talk about this idea that those sort of liabilities accumulate together and they compound and they cause problems, right?
Uh-huh.
Right. I mean, Deb, you've lived this, right? How many
Oh
how
my
many
God.
times?
When you said, "Oh, let's do it on this," I was like, per usual, I dumped exactly your text messages into Claude, and I was like, "Claude, this is what this makes me think of." And then I just spewed out whatever came into my head. And of course, what immediately makes me think of is my time at Accenture, the one system that we had that was impervious to being altered and changed because everything ran on that one system. And its guts were from like 2005. Originally, it was just for HR people. Like that was what it was designed for. It was for HR people to track who was coming available and who would be staffed where. So we would know where people were at any given time, know that they were booked on a thing and that they were charging their time, to make money for the company. And then at some point, they were like, we're going to get rid of all these other HR roles. And now we're going to have the executives put their roles directly into the system. Well, we have this nifty system. Of course, it was designed for HR, but that's okay. We can now make it client facing, right? So no, it gets better. It gets better. So then not only do we want that, now we want people to be actually able to go in there and look at the roles that the executives are putting on it. Now, remember, it was a system designed initially for HR. So everything was in HR. Everything had all the HR thing. So every time we added up, we had to put a translation layer, a separate thing on it, right? And this was on top of the old architecture, 2005, 2006. You could see as the times changed how you did that. And then at some point, we were told, we're implementing Workday. You need to move my scheduling over to Workday. And it was like, huh? Now, if you know Workday is not customizable. Organizations have to it's very limited. Organizations end up having to change their structure to match that structure, which worked. It worked for most of the financial and other stuff. But then we get into staffing and the way that a talent supply chain does it and the way that Accenture did it, which was one of the big sell points was when you're a consultant and you come available from a project, you don't have to wait for someone to tell you what your next role is. You can go out and look at the opportunities yourself. We're going to show them to you, not only the ones that are sold, but the ones that are coming down the pipeline, right?
All
And
right. So transparency.
we couldn't do that with Workday. We could not do it. I was actually one of the people who was asking the Workday people, I was like, so tell me, for when we want to propose candidates to a role, can we do that? And they're like, no. Can people look at those roles? No. It was all internal the way that Workday did it. They didn't have this client-facing kind of, thing. They had it if you did it through, like, their ATS, whole 'nother thing, right? Not all the functionality that my scheduling had been customized to grow with this organization that when I started was around 150,000. By the time I left, it was 700,000 people. Kept going by this system, right? And eventually it was like, oh, I guess we won't be moving my scheduling to Workday. We'll just have to upgrade my scheduling. And when they say upgrade my scheduling, they mean pile more layers and filters on top of it to make it look like it's doing what it needs to do. But underneath, sorry, that was really rude. But underneath it is this base architecture that is ancient. And the problem is we can't pull it down for any period of time because it is literally the way that we get humans to where they need to be so we can bill their time to the client and make money for the company.
Yeah. Well, and I'm assuming it also probably attached to payroll in some way,
Mhm.
which means that if you pull it offline for any length of time, someone's not getting their
Yeah.
paycheck.
Oh, yeah. On the days when something would go wrong, because again, old architecture, like everyone around the world was in these group calls for like however long they needed to be to get the damn system up and running again. I think the longest it was ever done was maybe a day or two tops. And even then it
Do
was
you
like, "Ugh."
do you think there's anyone in HR anywhere who doesn't have a failed Workday implementation story? Like, that sounds
We
really
should
mean,
actually
but
do a survey on that. Can someone please give us a success story? A Workday implementation success story where you
I
didn't
mean,
have any
so
major problems.
I worked for a company and they picked Workday as their new core HCM, and I'm really glad I'm not there as they're attempting to roll this out. And I'm really glad they're not there as they're attempting to roll this out because Workday is sort of notorious for one of these behaviors. I'm gonna use an analogy. I don't know if you are familiar with what goes into selecting your finishes when you're doing a new build home, but often it looks something like you either have a design center and you go and you specifically pick out like this is the tile for the kitchen and this is the like backsplash and
Yep,
all
I've
those things.
seen that before.
Or
Yeah.
you pick out like a package, like I want the modern package or I want the freaking disgusting farmhouse package. Tell me I have opinions, right? So you like but you sort of know that you're picking out finishes, but the house is a livable house.
One would hope
When you
so.
when you go to Workday, and there are other Salesforce is kind of notorious for this as well. But there are other of these SaaS companies that do this nonsense where like critical functions are buried behind additional license levels. And so it's a little bit like going to the builder and you think you're just going to pick out tiles and you pick out your tiles and you pick out your flooring and you like choose your carpet and you add the fake beams package or whatever it is that you want to do. And then on the day you're going to close on your house, you walk in and you notice that there's no toilets. And you go to the builder and you say, "Hey, my house isn't finished. There's no toilet." And they say, "Oh, well that was the plumbing package." And that's what I feel like happens with
We
a
have
lot
a
of these
fecal
SaaS vendors,
crisis in this house right now.
right? Right? And so I mean it's this kind of absolute nonsense. And at the point in time that you realize you don't have what you need, the switching cost is so high. And I just realized I'm using like marketing terms, so I'm going to back up and define. Okay, so in marketing, going back to the olden times, there's this concept of these like different market forces that determine how easy it is to make a profit in a business. Porter's 5 forces model. Literally everyone in marketing and most people in HR have had to memorize it at some point. Like it's actually part of our certification exam. And so the responses to these forces, one of the ways that you create your little like area in the market and make sure that you can make a profit and you're hopefully not competing on price alone, because competing on price alone is a race to the bottom and then you end up with very tiny margins and you have all kinds of problems.
Mhm.
Differentiation is one of those ways. So making your product sustainably and truthfully different in a way that the customer actually values. That's one.
Yep.
There are other ways of making your product be something that people keep. And one of those is making the switching costs really expensive. So making it impossible or difficult to leave the product you're on and switch to another one. And I feel like this is the route that so many of these SaaS providers have taken. They don't make their product good. They make their product good enough to sell and then difficult enough to switch from that no one
Absolutely.
they just work around it.
It's the typical way that companies are structured in that they extract everything that they possibly can from their clients without providing any value, right? And then here's the kicker though. This is what gets me. So they do this thing, right? And the company's going to implement Workday, and then they realize that they're going to have to put forth a lot more money to get the actual stuff that they need to make it work. So where does that money come from?
Hmm.
Probably the HR budget, possibly. So then who ends up paying the tax? Who ends up bearing the load? The people doing the work. So once again,
Yeah.
extracting it.
Yeah, or we cut headcount and,
We don't have to worry about it.
it's an investment in our infrastructure by killing the part of our infrastructure that we say is the most valuable resource we have. Sure, that makes sense. But okay, so Deb, I think what we've talked about so far, this is not rocket science. I mean, most people have had this experience. Most people have felt this.
Absolutely.
If
Absolutely.
everybody knows about it, why doesn't anyone talk about it?
Oh, because you can't. You can't talk about this. You talk about this in your TikTok videos. Like the person who makes there's a phrase, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, which is how I told people about certain things. Like if you wanted something, you had to keep bothering someone because when you're in a big, huge machine like this, you can't sit back and wait. You have to be the person that's constantly doing that. However, that does not apply for anything that might be viewed as criticism or pointing out the big, huge turd in the punch bowl. You will get taxed for that. You will get, if you don't get fired for it, you will pay it in some other way, whether it's socially, reputationally, be that name that people whisper about that, oh, we like so-and-so, but we don't want to staff them because of, whatever. I mean, you pay it in other ways.
So you actually just hit on something that's really interesting because all of the white paper people, when they're talking about these different kinds of debt, the technical debt and the data debt and the process debt, they usually talk about them in layers, and the culture debt sort of sits over the top of all of them. But I think that these things stay persistent and they stay invisible to some degree because the culture taught people how to not see them. So the culture doesn't just make the debt invisible. It doesn't just make the debt problematic to talk about. I think it also makes the debt meaningful. It gives the debt a story. And I'm going to give you an example.
Yay!
So technical debt. This is going back to this whole our tech stack doesn't talk to each other.
Yes.
Or, we have these incompatible things that don't
14
work
systems
together.
that don't talk to each other, and we have to use spreadsheets to be able to connect them. Yeah.
And the API breaks once a week and, all these things, right? So technical debt stays invisible because the culture calls firefighting heroism. Every time a system breaks and someone saves the day, the culture hands that person a metaphorical cape and says, this is what excellence looks like here. And when excellence looks like saving the day, you need things to keep going wrong. The broken architecture isn't a liability anymore. It's a career development opportunity.
You man, woman, you dove down. You dove down to the core of it. It's like you just did the 5 whys and you did it in like one why that went right to the core. I mean, and
that's my specialty,
it's not something that they would talk about. It's not, and it's something as human beings that if we said that to people, they would be offended and upset, even though that really is what it is.
Well, I mean, they may be listening, being offended and upset. But hopefully not. I mean, if you've put up with us, then chances are you knew what you were getting, right? And if you came into this surprised, sorry, you should have paid attention to the show description and the name of the show. So,
and you have the choice to turn us off. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So I also have examples for data debt and for process debt.
Oh, yay, I want to hear them all.
Okay, so data debt stays invisible because the culture turns bad data infrastructure into a marker of prestige. So the person who owns the shadow spreadsheet, the one who built their own model because the
Oh my
official
God.
system can't be trusted. Yeah, you can see it coming, can't you? Because you lived it.
I lived it, and you're giving
That
me chills.
person-
And I know you say that my chills don't matter anymore, but the fact that I can actually feel them tells me that this is truth and that I recognize.
I
the
only
truth
said
in
your
this.
chills don't matter because you tell me you get chills every time you talk to me.
That's because
and I
every time I
refuse to
talk
believe
to
I'm
you,
that
you give me
special.
chills. Yes, no, you survey says no. Okay, so no, it's Janet in marketing or Janet in whatever, and that
It's always
story that-
Janet, right?
It's Janet. I don't know why it's Janet. Why can't it be Denise? You know, Denise is pretty
I mean,
nice.
I don't know. I have an Aunt Denise. She's lovely. She never touches spreadsheets, though, so I can't quite picture that one.
So are you telling me that if you have a child and you name it Janet, that child is doomed to be the spreadsheet holder, the goddess of the spreadsheet?
I
Is
don't
that
know
what you're
about
telling me?
doomed. I mean, I think that they're just inherently the person who holds all of the competence.
There you go.
It's a very competent name, Janet.
Yeah, now I want to
Okay.
go research where it comes from. But anyways, that's a whole nother thing that I could go down a run. This is why I never get anything freaking done, by the way. Okay, anyways. So the spreadsheet, and
Yeah.
it's a little bit of that hero too. It's the
Yeah,
prestige.
Because
yeah.
you're the person who has the real numbers, right? You're
Well, and
indispensable.
you think that
You're
you're
Janet.
safe. You think that you're safe is what it is.
Oh, yeah, you think you're safe until it turns out that someone 6 levels ahead of you doesn't actually realize that Janet owns the spreadsheet. And they do these like peanut butter spread layoffs and they're like, "Oh no, we're just laying off 10% in here. These are the most expensive people." And then everything breaks and people are sad and then they blame it on someone downstream who has nothing to do with it.
Exactly.
Process debt.
Oh my
Process
God.
debt stays invisible because the culture calls bureaucratic friction professionalism.
Oh, man, that one hurts. And it's so true. My God.
Moving
This-
slowly between 17 approval layers isn't dysfunction, it's diligence. It's how serious people operate. The person who points out
your
that the process
Risk
doesn't make sense.
mitigation is what it is. It's risk mitigation.
And if you are the person who points out that process doesn't make sense, you're not being rigorous, you're not strategic.
Yeah. No.
You're naive, you don't understand.
You don't get it. You just don't get it. Do you know how many times that tone of, and it wasn't even those words necessarily, it was the tone of voice in which whatever they said was delivered that delivered
Mhm.
that whole thing of like, you're naive. And I believed that for a very, very long time.
I mean, they were probably wearing a very nice suit, and I'm sure they had some very serious like slide decks that they brought to the conversation.
and they had a title, man. They had a title.
Yeah, I mean, when you see what creates success in the organization, you do the things that look like success, and this is how all of this sort of builds as a culture, and it calcifies over time.
Yeah.
So by the time
Calcified.
you,
Ooh.
I like that word. That's a good one.
That's really, it's like, I want to knock on it, like calcified. Okay, anyways, go ahead.
By the time you get to what we call culture debt, which is this calcification piece, those outdated norms, the gaps between the stated values and the actual behaviors, my little soapbox there, the trust that has eroded somewhere between the third restructure and the wellness app that showed up in the same email as a layoff announcement. I mean, like there's trust debt, right? By the time you
Right.
get there, you're not looking at the last thing that went wrong. You're looking at what has been running the whole time. The operating system underneath every one of these other systems and the part that allowed it to be a problem and actually incentivized pieces of the problem.
Oh my God. Like seriously, were you were you in my brain looking at my work email? Because I swear to God, you just described many emails that I received over the years, like with the like it got to the point there at the end when I was when I was in crisis mode, when I was like burnout city was headed my way. I would get an email, and at the bottom of it, it would always have those links to all the, here's the EAP, here's the wellness link, here's the blah, 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 blah. And I would become immediately enraged by looking at those links. Immediately enraged. And I was
Yeah.
like, what is wrong with me? Why is this? It's supposed to be, And I couldn't talk myself out of it, and that
I
just
mean, partly
added
because
to
it
the whole
doesn't feel
thing.
like a true resource, right? I mean,
It's not.
it's the performance of caring, not the
Yeah.
actual act of caring.
Absolutely.
I mean, it feels like a
Abso-freaking-lutely.
CYA.
It is. It's exactly a CYA. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And if the only conversations that you're having with people are through emails that are being distributed and you're not actually connecting with other humans, then I can see where that's how it would occur as the performance of caring. Now, hopefully, there would be some human layers in there that you would actually have a conversation with, and they were humans that were interested in actually talking to you as another human rather than talking to you as the department. But who knows? At this point,
I
we
mean,
don't know.
EAPs are usually outsourced, so it's
Mm,
not usually someone internal to the company, so that is
yep.
usually a genuine resource, assuming you can navigate it. I mean, that has been my experience. I've had a couple of different instances from a couple of different companies where I've needed to utilize the EAP, and just figuring out how to navigate it, and it's like, you know what? It's fine.
There
I'll just
should be at least 1 or 2 people in the company who knows how it operates. Do people usually know how the is there one person buried somewhere in the organization that actually
I mean,
knows?
some of the organizations I've worked at, we've actually had, like, pieces of HR that are specifically responsible for employee wellness.
And then knowing yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's no real feedback mechanism where you can talk about the way that the things work or not or don't work. And what's also interesting is in the instances where I've had somebody who worked in that role, the people who worked in that role genuinely cared so much and were so amazingly nice and kind, you would never want to say anything negative to them about any program they offered. And so
Abso-friggin-lutely. But, I mean, what you're saying about the performance of care, like, at the organization I was at, 700,000 employees, you would get those links, and managers would hand them out freely to everyone, and they would be told by HR to hand this out freely to everyone. And does anyone in that chain really know what those are? Or is it just something that we're handing them to get them to shut up? Or to make it look like, "Hey, we do care about you. See, here's some links." Like, that's the part that gets me is and to me, it's also a reflection of what's going on with AI is that people are not checking they're not checking the outputs. This is a behavior that we've had for a long time, and now it's just showing up that it's this much more expensive when you're not doing that, when you're not doing the due diligence of what am I really handing out to you? Is it actually helpful? Has anyone ever asked that? Does anyone even know if it's helpful? And like you said, because they're designed to be safe so that you don't have to worry about anyone knowing about your personal information or whatever, you know, how do you capture any feedback? And is it a way that you cannot trace that feedback back to the person and then be able to figure out who they were and what they had to say about it? It's all like it's all designed to protect itself. It's like it's this organism that's designed the culture of whatever the company is designed. Everything is like
it has an immune system.
it does. It's like this yeah, oh yeah, it's totally the Borg. It's the Borg. What can I tell you? It's just the Borg. Whatever. Anyways,
Star Trek is not my particular flavor of nerd, so I'm just gonna have to believe you on that. The only thing they're the resistance is futile people, like the
yes.
assimilation people? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Resistance is futile. Yeah. My husband has a very close relation to the Borg. Like he really is that really resonates with him. And there to me, there's a lot about it that yeah, it's you should check it out at some point. Maybe. I
No,
don't know. Maybe just
Micah
read a
Micah wants
summary
to
of it.
start watching
Next
Star Trek.
generation
Yeah,
or
Next
just the
Generation.
original?
So no, Next Generation. Like he's actually watched the first 2 episodes, and which is actually really the first episode because it's split in 2. Um,
Season 1, I'm gonna tell you, season 1 is a slog, but get through it. You will be glad you
I
did,
mean,
but season 1 is a
for
slog.
for me, I have enough of a working knowledge. It was my parents' particular flavor of nerd, and
Mhm.
so it's funny, the title soundtrack came on and the words started, and I was finishing it right ahead of them, and Seth looked at me and was like, "I thought you didn't know this IP," and I was like, "Yeah, well, it turns out I listened to it a lot as a child."
It's so true, it's so true, and I honestly knew nothing really I knew the original Star Trek because I used to come home from school and see reruns of it playing. I'm not that old.
Mhm.
I'm close to that, but not quite. But then my husband like won trivia contests, like national level trivia contests on Next Generation. The man can like quote you that like you'll see actors now and you're like, oh, they were blah blah blah, and tell you the episode and everything that they were in. I mean, he deeply
So like
internalized it.
real. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So going back to our process debt and our technical
Well, the
debt
process debt and the culture debt and the
and the
calcified.
culture debt. Yeah.
So okay, so you know
said
me.
something where you said that it was like I had been reading your emails.
Yes.
And I don't actually have to have read your emails because this is so it's so standard across so many companies.
It's the standard operating practice. It's the SOP.
It is the predictable outcome of the way we've been working for the last couple of decades. So I can look at any company that uses standard processes and standard workflows and the HR by checklist, and I can tell you what's happening inside them without ever talking to a single employee at this point.
It's like, did no one ever hear that quote? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. I don't even know
how
who
they never heard it. It's I think it's attributed to Einstein, but
It's attributed to Einstein, but I don't think it's him. I think it's someone else.
Con Air.
Which, by the way, is a freaking awesome movie in some ways. In
Yeah.
other words, I'm actually surprised you watched it, woman, because that's kind of a violent one. And I know you don't. You don't.
I really, really, really loved John Cusack's character in that movie. There is this point where he was like, oh, he's known to be verbose in the company of thieves. And they're like, what? And he goes, loquacious? How about chatty? And the other guy goes, what's up with dictionary boy here? And he goes, actually, thesaurus boy would be more appropriate. And it just amused me so deeply. And I mean, every part of it was like such a great movie. And, you know, the theme song is Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood. And like, I mean, I don't know. And that came out at a time in my life when my friends worked in movie theaters. So we just saw every movie that came out.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with action movies. I just don't watch horror movies because I'm a
I
great
never
big wimp,
ever
and
watch
I
horror
will-
movies because the horror characters live in my bedroom and in my bathroom and in my closet and in the TV. So I don't watch. Yeah. I can't tell the different. What is it? Superstition is a superstition when it's not a superstition. Like when you believe that it's real. Like I cannot separate reality from.
Yeah. It's I mean, I think I had nightmares for like 4 weeks after watching Signs.
I
And that was the
sleep
last-
on my left side because of The Ring. And I saw that.
Oh
for the
God,
first
I
time.
only saw one commercial for that movie. Don't tell me anything else about it.
I'm
Like the
not going to
commercial
tell
was
you.
too much.
I can't share it with you because literally I now sleep on my left side because of
It's
that
actually
movie.
better for you to sleep on your left side. You get reflux on your right, so you're fine.
Do you really?
Oh
Well,
yeah,
there you go.
yeah. No, it's better to
I think
sleep
I
on
had
your
my
left side.
bed against that wall in my bathroom. No, seriously, because anyways, I'm not going to tell you anymore. So what were we talking about? Calcified, the
So
standard
that
operating
you could
procedures.
actually like see the standard outcome, and I'm going to show you. We're going to tell a corporate fairy tale, and you're going to see how many how many elements you recognize in it.
Story time with Nicole. It's my favorite.
Once upon a time, which in corporate means Q3, because nothing ever happens in Q1 when everyone is still recovering from the offsite, or Q2 when everyone is panicking about Q1, or Q4 when the budget is either gone or being spent very fast so it doesn't disappear. There was a company called Centrix. Centrix was the result of a merger between a company called Apex and a company called Vantage, which made the new company Apantage for about 6 weeks until legal said absolutely not, and so it became Centrix. And all the mugs said Centrix, and the mugs were the last thing anyone agreed on for quite some time. Centrix was a good company. Centrix had values. The values were printed on the wall in every floor in a font that communicated trustworthiness, and the values were integrity, innovation, and excellence, which are the values of every company that has ever existed, including several that no longer exist, specifically because of how they practiced integrity, innovation, and excellence. Centrix also had a transformation. The transformation was called Project Horizon because it was heading somewhere, and that somewhere was the horizon. And if you are thinking that the horizon is by definition a thing you can never actually reach, that is very astute of you, and you would have been told in the Q2 Cook kickoff that you were not being a team player if you pointed it out. I killed Deb. Project
Keep going,
Horizon
keep
had a
going.
logo, a roadmap, a steering committee, an executive sponsor who was copied on every email and had read several of them, and a slide deck with a sunrise gradient that implied things were heading somewhere bright. Specifically, somewhere bright where the 14 systems Centrix had inherited from 3 companies it had merged with over the previous decade all somehow spoke to each other and agreed on what the word customer meant, which they currently did not, each of them having a slightly different opinion on the matter, the way a family has slightly different opinions about what happened at Thanksgiving 2019, except with more data integrity implications. The 14 systems had been there longer than most of the people. The 14 systems had outlasted 2 CEOs, 4 chief people officers, a rebranding, the merger that made Appantage, the legal intervention that made Centrix, and a culture initiative called One Centrix that produced a very nice video and approximately 0 other outcomes. The 14 systems were, in the specific way of things that nobody chose and nobody owns and nobody can quite remember the origin of, just how things worked. Pointing at them and saying, "These are the problem," was the kind of thing that marked you as someone who didn't understand the complexity of the business, which was the thing people said in place of, "Please stop." So, Project Horizon launched without touching the 14 systems, because the 14 systems were not in scope, and the transformation proceeded to transform on top of a foundation it had collectively agreed not to look at, which is a thing that sounds insane when you say it out loud and is standard practice when you do not. By month 8, Project Horizon had produced a revised org chart, a SharePoint site that 17 people had bookmarked and 4 had visited, a new set of values, still integrity and excellence, but innovation had been replaced by agility because the times demanded it, and a culture survey whose results were sitting in a folder that HR intended to analyze as soon as they had the headcount to analyze it, which they did not, because of a restructure that happened in month 6 and was not officially related to Project Horizon.
Ha!
The steering committee met every 2 weeks in a conference room called Innovation Hub B, which was distinguished from Innovation Hub A by the fact that the projector worked, provided you had submitted the AV request 72 hours in advance through the facility's ticketing system, which ran on software from 2009 that nobody had updated because the people who knew how to update it had left in a previous restructure without writing anything down, because there hadn't been time to write anything down, because there was a restructure happening, and also because that's simply not how Marcus operated. And Marcus knew everything. And Marcus is now consulting for a competitor at a rate that caused the VP of Finance to make a specific face when his name came up. In month 11, the steering committee identified the problem. The problem was communication. The employees were not understanding the transformation, which was why they did not trust it, which is why it was not transforming fast enough, which was why there needed to be a video. The video would feature the executive sponsor looking directly into the camera and using the word journey, and it would be distributed via the internal communications platform that 40% of employees had muted because of the volume of transformation updates, which was a data point that was true but not sayable, and so it was not said aloud. The video was produced, the video was distributed, the 14 systems continued to disagree about what a customer was. On the 14th floor, a woman named Sandra had been maintaining a spreadsheet for 2 years. The spreadsheet existed because the official system could not do what the official system had been purchased, implemented, announced, and trained upon to do, and Sandra had discovered this 6 weeks after go live and had raised it, and had been told it would be addressed in a future phase, and the future phase had not arrived, and so Sandra maintained the spreadsheet every day, quietly, with the competence of someone who had stopped expecting credit for this approximately 20 months ago. She's not the only one. There were, at a conservative estimate, between 30 and 60 spreadsheets like Sandra's actively being maintained throughout Centrix by people who knew exactly what the official systems could not do and had built in their own time a parallel infrastructure that was holding the actual work of the organization together, like load-bearing furniture nobody was allowed to acknowledge was structural or even allowed to acknowledge existed. In month 14, Centrix launched a new transformation. The new transformation was called Project Horizon 2.0 because the first horizon had not quite been reached, which was not a failure. It was a learning. And the learning was that transformation required stronger change management, and the change management would begin with a new logo and a revised roadmap and a slide with a sunset gradient that implied things were heading somewhere bright. The mugs were already at the printer. Sandra updated her spreadsheet. The 14 systems remain, collectively, untroubled, And somewhere in the parking lot, a person sat in their car for 17 minutes, looking at the building, knowing everything that was happening inside, trying to remember why they had thought, this time, it might be different.
You are gonna publish that one, right?
Sure, I'll publish that one.
Hell yeah. That needs to be published. That was fucking brilliant. Sorry, I cussed.
But I mean, that's the thing is like you can take that story and you can put any company's name on it. They're all doing it.
Absolutely. They're all
They've
doing
all
it.
done
And this
it.
is and that you know that this is why this came up because my particular I tell everyone this as someone who's like balanced between operations and strategy or whatever the right name for it is.
I believe you're
Like
supposed to say that you work at the intersection of operations
I
and
work at the
strategy.
like seriously, as soon as I see intersection, I'm like, I'm gonna get hit by a bus. No, I'm like AI. That's such an AI tell for me that as soon as I see intersection, I'm like, come on, folks, work with your
So
context in your bot. Get the
funny
context in your bot right.
story.
Yeah.
One of the walks that Linda and I were out for that you weren't there. There is an intersection up the road from my house that is the intersection of Galena Street and Galena Street. I think it's actually the center of the universe. I'm not sure. I someday am going to take a picture of that sign and I am going to post a post about how I work at the intersection of the universe. But
And you should be carrying like 42 things.
oh yeah. But you know what the thing is? Like I actually do work at the intersection of a ton of things, but I don't need them to intersect in a
No.
way on someone else's map. They
No,
just
you don't.
I work across the streams.
You don't.
The streams
this
should not
is
intersect.
the whole thing that you described with the 14 systems not even being in it. Like I lived that. That was what I lived. And I'm not gonna lie. I have a very firm case of Schadenfreude when I think about those CEOs and everyone who are tearing their hair out over their AI implementation and transformations that aren't paying off. And it's because all of the money that was supposed to go to fix their freaking data was diverted to something else. Who knows? Maybe it was strip bars for the executive. Who knows what it was diverted for? And then that data just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And
Mhm.
now it's come due and it's going to cost you. And that kills me is they lay Sandra off. Nobody can read her freaking spreadsheet. And now, like AI,
Nobody knows the spreadsheet. Like where is it?
don't
where is it
worry,
saved?
Nicole. AI will do it. AI
Mhm.
will know. Like and they don't. And it's like, how much can we tell them? Like seriously, AI is not a magic bullet. It's not a magic wand. It ain't gonna fix the stuff that you've been denying and the stuff that you've been avoiding and stuffing under the rug and pretending that it wasn't. We'll worry about it later. We'll worry about
I
it
mean,
later. Yeah,
the number
later
of
has
executives
come.
who have never used this technology is so obvious because of the things that they think it can do. And it's you can't even get it to stop truly saying quietly every 3 seconds. I mean, it's sort of I mean, you want to laugh, but you also kind of want to throw up. And
It's frightening. It's really frightening that the terms that they're throwing around, like they know what it is. Like they're going to have these multi-agent, blah, 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 blah. And the tech guys are like, we're just going to keep building what we're building because this stuff is fun and we're having a
oh
great
my
time.
gosh, I saw the funniest TikTok the other day. It was, the CEO like burst in the room. He's like, everybody stop building anything because, they're all outspending their token budget. It's freaking June.
Yeah.
And they've all spent their entire year's budget. And
Oh,
then,
yeah.
the product guy is talking to the tech guy. The tech guy says, oh, I have my like 5 agent system that's, doing all these things and it's making it so that my meeting notes are transcribed and I get all of my action items, whatever. And the product guy is like, wait, but like, how does it work? And what do each of these agents do? And they're all double checking each other. One of them's translating the transcript into French. And the product guy goes, I didn't know you knew French. And he's like, I don't. I mean, it's the phrase is token maxing. Token maxing is what they're
Token
calling
maxing.
it.
Yep.
And it's funny because I think, I coined this phrase a while back, quant maxing. And
Yep.
it's just the predictable outcome, right? You put a dashboard in place and people will attempt to do their best to match the dashboard.
You told them to start using AI, so they're going to start using AI, whether they know
Well, and
how
they
to
want to
use
be
it
on the
right or not.
leaderboard. Everyone wants to be on the leaderboard. Like, yes, I did in fact need 30 different recipes for sloppy joes, and I needed you to make me an artistic rendering of what the sloppy joes would look like if I were in Paris.
That is totally something that I would have my AI do. You know I would. That just sounds.
I'm surprised you haven't already.
Give me a minute. No,
It would actually be the sloth eating the sloppy joe, but
it totally would. It's the lack of knowledge around it. And the thing is that it's not hard. It's really not hard. The basics of it and the functionality of it. And if you follow the logical reasoning of how it behaves, you would know, we're probably going to need, since it's just generating and it's guessing at what the answer is rather than actually calculating and giving us an actual answer, maybe we need to have a human somewhere in that's actually checking out what it's producing. Like, so we can't just randomly lay off the human beings that kept your 14 systems that were actually keeping it running, right?
yeah,
And
and
so-
this is the thing. Like the CEOs need to decide. Okay, we pay them to decide, right? That's
Yep.
the whole gig. So they need
Yep.
to decide. Maybe they don't care about the 14 systems. Maybe they want a fresh start. By all means, start fresh. Acknowledge the risk that you are taking. And in order to acknowledge that, you can't meaningfully choose a risk if you do not understand the risk.
Yeah.
And if you have made it impossible in your company to point out the risks, to point out the process debt and the tech debt and the data debt, because culturally you are punished if you do so, or culturally you are praised and incentivized for managing the side effects of those debt. How do you think you are ever going to, what's that horrible color? How are you ever going to move the needle on this?
Okay, wait. Can I ask you a question?
Hmm.
Move the needle. I always
I assume
thought
it's a
move the
record
needle-
metaphor.
That's what I thought it was too, but someone else told me the other day that it was a different metaphor. I don't know. But
What
the
else could it
needle
be?
was, I don't know, a sewing needle, like a sewing machine needle, maybe, or
Maybe. That didn't make
I
a
don't
ton
know.
of sense to
What
me.
kind of needle would it be? I don't know.
Let's see.
Someone will.
What
She's got to look it
does
up now.
Move
No,
the
but
needle derive from.
it feels like we're in a world where everyone is just passing the blame or passing the responsibility on. And unfortunately, with AI, someone has to be responsible. And since the AI companies aren't doing it, since they're like passing it on to the user, like who is it again that's responsible? The employee using the AI. Like it all somehow comes down to them. You know?
Yeah, but again, like if it's the employee using the AI. So, okay, if I'm a corporation and I want my people to adopt AI and I want them to adopt AI in a way to make their work more effective, but they are sitting on top of data they can't trust and they know. If you work with data at all in any corporation ever, you know to the depths of your soul, the second you surface a dashboard to the CFO who has a slightly different number of employees than the number they are used to seeing, they are going to not believe anything. Like you're going to spend all of your time going backwards and figuring out like, oh, well, that definition was this way and this definition is this way. And even if you include your freaking definition on there, they don't know what the definition in the last dashboard they saw was. So they can't even tell why there's a deviation. It makes me crazy.
So basically we need to define things and have an agreement on what the definitions are.
Move the needle. According to Claude, honest answer. I love that it starts with that. It's kind of like, are you giving me lies the other times? The exact origin is not definitively documented, and different sources claim different things. Industrial Revolution steam engine gauges, early radio broadcasting, World War II aviation instruments, even seismographs. Nobody agrees on the specific origin, and nobody has primary sources that settle it. What sources do agree on is that the expression became popular in a figurative sense in the 80s and is one of many phrases that began as business jargon. Oh, I guess the image being a needle on a gauge or a meter moving in response to
That's
stimuli.
what it is.
Okay,
It's
so
the needle on the gauge. But here's what cracks me up. Like it became popular in the 80s. I think someone should write a musical about the guy who uttered it the first time. Like what? Let's follow that man's pathway. Like let's create a musical about
do
the man.
you think
who
that man
brought...
is like happy with his life? I mean, if I were the first person who uttered the words we're going to build the plane while we fly it, I would be so intensely drowning in shame for what I had done to the world. I mean, Move the Needle's not nearly as bad as that one. But
Oh my God. I love it. I absolutely love it. And of course, that makes me think of what did you write recently around flattening phrases or flattening the understanding? Dweck, Carol
oh,
Dweck with growth. Oh my
oh, the growth
God.
mindset.
Oh my God. You know what? It's so disappointing because the way she describes it or the way she talks about it is what I think about when I think about growth mindset. Like that's what I think about. But it's become meaningless. It's
Yeah.
become you say it and people don't it's the same thing with transformation. Like
Mhm.
people use change and transformation interchangeably and they're not the same thing.
Nope.
Change is taking whatever the existing elements are and changing the configuration, changing something about them. Transformation is you have this configuration and then on the other side, you have something that's not recognizable as
Yeah.
that original thing. But we use transformation interchangeably. So now transformation has lost all of its, as far as I'm concerned, transformation in the true definition of the word is awe. It's awe inspiring. Because you think
Yeah.
about a butterfly and a chrysalis, like it goes through this period of mush. Like nobody would ever think that this little thing turns into this glorious butterfly. That's
Yeah.
transformation. No.
Although, I mean, to be fair, transformation can also go the other direction. Like you can go from a forest to a pile of ash.
This is true. See, you always see all sides of it. Damn you. No, I love that about you. That's one of the things I absolutely adore about you is that you bring like you see things in 3D or not even 3D. Like what are the other like is there like a 5D?
I mean, the fourth dimension is time. I don't I don't know that you can really say you see it. I mean, I guess you kind of see things through time. Somebody said something really interesting a while back as mutual friend who said that all of the great thinkers in history are in a conversation with one another throughout time.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it's one
oh,
of those things that sort
chills,
of sat with
chills
me.
again. You gave me chills again. No,
Yeah, but that's
it's
how I think of my work.
wow.
I want to take all of these amazing ideas that have come out like over time and that got stripped down. I mean, so if I'm thinking about my book, when I was trying to think of the easiest, most succinct way to talk about it, which, is not my strength. So there was the book in the 1990s by Peter Senge, The Fifth Discipline. And his entire thesis sort of boils down to you can't change behavior until you change belief. And that's true. That is
It's
1000% true.
10
But
billion trillion times true.
it stops a layer short. And the layer it stops short is the layer that my book is looking at. So I'm saying that you can't just change the beliefs that the people hold. You must look at the systems and processes and change the beliefs that are encoded in the systems and processes. So it's the sixth discipline, but I'm not calling it that.
The sixth dimension. Pew, pew, pew. Now I have the Doctor Who theme in my head.
I've never watched that. Not even
I never
one
did either.
episode.
Well, I had to because I was babysitting when I was like 10 or 11 years old. I was babysitting kids that were only about 3 or 4 years younger than me. And we would put on Doctor Who with Tom Baker and the Daleks, like a exterminate. Like I have memories of I was 10, 11 years old, and that's all I know about Doctor Who. I tried to watch it. I really did try to watch it. It's not my flavor of geekiness. I don't know what
Yeah.
my flavor of geekiness is. It's Fantastic Beasts. It's what else is my Twilight. That's my flavor of geekiness, evidently. It's got an element of
I
romance.
love Harry Potter. Twilight and I are not really friends.
Yeah.
And
No, I get it.
partly
I
because
get
I
it.
can't handle the teenage drama, which is
My God, it's
I'm
so
listening to the fifth Harry Potter right now, and oh my God, they should just name that one Harry Potter in the Year of Teenage Angst. So
it
bad.
totally is. The whole thing is like, but no, I do love Harry Potter, but I love Fantastic Beasts more. I don't know
Yeah.
why. And maybe it's because I read the
I
Harry
think
Potter
it's
books and I had a hard time reading them.
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, the Fantastic Beasts movies are a complete universe because that's all you have.
Yeah.
Whereas the movies for Harry Potter, are inherently incomplete
Yeah.
because there are books and you've listened to every fan ever complain about how incomplete the movies are. So even if you, like, I mean, they feel incomplete to me. But
Yeah.
all right, y'all, we went down a complete and total rabbit hole about books, and we're not going to share it with you. Sorry, it was our conversation, but we just want to make sure that we've wrapped up everything within the episode. And just, I'm not entirely sure what your takeaway is, except that we see you, we've been you, you're not alone. It is just as nonsensical as it sounds. And when you need proof to yourself that it is as nonsensical as it sounds, feel free to return to our little fairy tale and see exactly how easy it was for me to throw together the experience that you, a person who I may have never met, are having right now.
Abso-friggin-lutely. Find your community, y'all. Find the people that see it just like you do and hang out with them. That's the only way you're gonna survive it. I'm sorry, that sounded so doom-laden. I didn't mean to make it sound like that, but literally, that's what you need
But
to do.
no, yeah, community matters, and
Yeah,
finding your people is the single best way to survive any of the nonsense in corporate.
absolutely. Abso-friggin-lutely.
They told us to prove our worth, count the hearts like profit and loss, but some things you can't fit into cells, and that's what they forgot. We still believe in the reason we started. It can't be work that makes the world less guarded. We were never numbers, never machines. We were the pulse behind the dream. They can measure, they can spin, but we're the reason
So awesome.
we still believe.
And y'all can thank Nicole for that, by the way. She was the inspiration. She was like, "I want it to sound like this and like this and like this." And I was like, "Okay, it should sound like this
Well,
and this and this."
it also was one of my rants to you that you turned into the lyrics.